Climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time. Increasing temperatures, rising sea levels, and extreme weather events are growing ever more common. What can we do about climate change? Innovative business models for clean energy and climate adaptation are a big part of the solution. Plenty of entrepreneurs have great ideas on how they can make an impact. However, it can be challenging to find the investment to get their projects off the ground or to grow their businesses. That's where PFAN comes in. The Private Financing Advisory Network is a global network of climate and clean energy financing professionals, offering free business coaching and investment facilitation to projects and businesses in developing countries, bridging the gap between investors and developers. The PFAN journey begins with an entrepreneur submitting a project proposal, detailing their investment needs. We select high potential projects or businesses and map a pathway to investment. The next step, business coaching, is at the heart of PFAN. We appoint an expert consultant from our network to provide targeted and unbiased one-on-one advice to help entrepreneurs refine their business plans and financial models, something which plays a key role in attracting financing. Once entrepreneurs are ready, we introduce them to suitable investors and, if necessary, provide further support to help make the deal happen. PFAN is funded by our donors, enabling us to provide these services for free. If you're an entrepreneur developing a project or scaling up an existing business in clean energy or climate adaptation, a consultant who wants to share your expertise, or an investor looking to make an impact, we would love to hear from you. Let's work together in creating a cleaner, greener planet where businesses are part of the solution.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world, and welcome to day 2 of the Cooling Investment Forum that's being convened by the Private Finance Advisory Network, or PFAN. If you're joining us for the first time and didn't join our first day of presentation, you've missed out on some really interesting and important background to why cooling is an issue of such importance to climate response, and more than that, a whole range of development outcomes around the world. And in partnership with the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program, or KCEP, PFAN has been actively looking to support project developers and entrepreneurs with good ideas and new technologies to bring those ideas forward in the hope of creating a more sustainable cooling environment for the whole world, and especially in developing countries. PFAN's helped more than 30 such companies with an investment ask of more than $150 million towards investment readiness, and hopefully to find funding that will take them further on their journey. So we spent some time in our day 1 session looking at why cooling is important and the work of PFAN, and also the important question of what investors are looking for in cooling investments. This day 2 is an exciting program in which we're going to look more closely at some of the projects that we've got, that we've been working with through PFAN in our pipeline, that are moving towards investment readiness. So these projects will be pitching to the audience, which includes a number of investors, and we're going to have some really detailed and practical discussions about next steps. So I hope it's an interesting, informative, and practical session for all of you to attend. My name is Mark Lister. I should have introduced myself. I'm the global cooling expert for PFAN, but I'm going to hand over now to some of the other experts in PFAN so you can meet them during the course of today. First off, it'll be Nagaraja Rao, who's the head of investment facilitation. Nagaraja is going to tell us a little bit more about this forum, what you can expect out of your attendance today, and basically set the scene for our presentations and what's to come. So Nagaraja, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening. Looks like in virtual world we can do this. Greeting everybody in 3 different time zones. Let me welcome you all to the session. This is continuation of what we started on 24th of March. And let me give you a brief on what Mark was saying about the attractiveness of the cooling. According to our recent UN research, improving the energy efficiency of cooling products avoided greenhouse gas emission by 210 to 460 gigawatts of carbon dioxide in the next 4 decades. As a positive side effect of COVID-19, the opportunity for a faster transition to clean energy across key technologies has opened up. It is important to foster collaboration across different kinds of stakeholders from the industry to understand cross-sectoral nature of cooling. With rapid urbanization and growing population, there is a demand for sustainable energy efficient cooling solution. Access to cooling has become a development need. Now, while this gives you a top level need and opportunity in the cooling, what we should look at today is the fundamental reason why we are sitting together. One is we have the projects that, like Mark said, we have curated, we have brought it to a stage where we are proud of those projects, where we can present it to the potential investors. It would be good to see how the market reacts to these projects. As we have seen, the kind of opportunities that are there in the clean technology and climate action companies has since, I think, in the last at least 10 years has grown manifolds. Like after the Paris Agreement, Bill Gates, that venture capital raised about 2 billion so far. And that is that energy, that is breakthrough energy, sorry, yeah. Then if I remember, one I would like to quote, Vinod Khosla, one of the prominent VCs in the Silicon Valley, who said that clean tech is the usual VC model. 1 out of 100 gives you 1,000 times the returns. So we are excited to see which one of our companies will be a unicorn, which one will get $1 billion valuation, which one would get that 1000x returns that he's talking about. I mean, he gave this statement, probably 10 years back or even more. But as we can see, that has really played out, because I think one of the companies which is in the batteries, QuantumScape, which floated last year in the market, is now valued at 21 billion. So the kind of value that the companies are able to create is attracting investments across the world, and we see that happening. In PFAN, we would be very excited to present you some of the best companies that we have brought to you. These projects have a proven track record and looking for scale up. Projects that have already raised initial rounds of funding and looking for equity and for further growth, representing new age technologies in cooling. The platform also brings the developers to reflect on their projects and get constructive feedback from the investor panel, opportunity for an interactive discussion and networking. The format would be as follows. It's a 10-minute presentation for each project. Warning at the 7th minute and 9th minute. Moderator will notify you if you are over the time. Please wrap up the presentation immediately. I think here Peter DuPont said that he would come on the screen. 10 minutes of Q&A. Only investors panel will ask this question. It is not for others, because this is structured in this format where it is an exclusive interaction of 10 minutes between the project which is making the presentation and the investors. So they would be asking questions in turn. Stay muted and video off when you are not presenting. Explanation of the format of presentation. After 3 presentations, there will be a short 20 minutes break for the audience. Please message the moderator if you have any query. After the end of all presentations, reflection on projects by the investor panel, another 10 minutes. After this session, what do we do? So there is a follow-up action, which, at the end of the day, Peter Story would be talking about. It is to support the projects for investor identification and introduction and deal facilitation. So this is how the day is structured. Usually, we used to do this in the real world, but this is due to pandemic, we are doing it virtually. And we hope that we will have as much impact as we had in the real world. It would be really good to get your feedback on this format as well. So we look forward to a interactive day and an exciting day forward with the 5 projects making their pitch and the investors identifying opportunities in those projects. Thank you and welcome again. Back to you, Mark.
Nagaraja, thank you very much for the introduction to the session and for laying it out so well in terms of what people can expect. So let's get down to business. We've got 5 projects eager to present what they're doing and their investment asks, followed by some series of question and answer from our esteemed investor panel. Whilst you aren't able to ask the questions directly to the companies yourself, we really do encourage you to ask your questions in the Q&A panel so that they can be either relayed to the companies live, or we can also follow them up after the event. We will also be polling you for your opinions on the presentation, so stay alert for that and watch out for the polling as it comes up after the presentations are over. But let's get into it. I'm very pleased to present or to introduce a really senior PFAN representative, Peter Dupont, who's the regional coordinator of PFAN for all of Asia. He's going to be our moderator for this session and guide us through both the first 3 company presentations and the question and answers from investors that follow, after which we'll have a short break and I'll see you again then. Please, Peter, take it away. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Mark. And so everybody take a deep breath, relax. We're going to have fun. And we're going to, this is the first of 2 sessions with project pitches. My name is Peter Dupont. As Mark said, I'm the regional coordinator for PFAN in Asia. We operate in 12 countries. We have a current pipeline of about 117 projects. And currently we're helping to close about $150 to $250 million a year in financing. That's what we're here today for, to hear about from some really cool companies, cool both in being cool, but also working in the cooling or cold chain space. So the ground rules, as Mark said, is 10-minute presentation followed by 10-minute Q&A with an investor panel. So I'd like to invite Nitin Goel from Inficold to start off. Nitin, you have the floor.
So my name is Nitin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Inficold. So cold chain is limited in India because of its heavy dependence on grid. In the case of dairy, India is the largest producer of milk, even bigger than the combined EU. But only 21% of milk is processed and sold by an organized sector. The global average stands at 55%. In horticulture, there are 15% post-harvest losses, primarily because of lack of cold chain. In air conditioning, there is only 5% penetration. So solar is quite cheap. It is in fact, in India, the cost of solar is 3 rupees per kilowatt hour. But the main challenge is that storage is cost prohibitive. So as a company, what we do is we cost effectively store solar electricity in the form of ice for later usage. So our applications are into milk, fruit and vegetable, eggs, fish. And so this combined market size in India itself is $3 billion. So over and above this $3 billion, the upside for us stands in air conditioning and complementary equipment and services related to dairy and farm, fruits and vegetables. From the technology perspective, so we are a technology-oriented company. We have developed one of the world's first retrofittable ice storage, which we can retrofit on any vapor compression system, for which we have received National Technology Award by Government of India, the highest technology award. Apart from that, we have developed off-grid solar integration in joint partnership with National Institute of Solar Energy, which is also the part of Government of India. So our niche is in innovating cooling technologies as per user needs. So in past 5 years, we have developed multiple variants in milk cooling, right from 200 liter to 12,000 liter per day of cooling. In the case of cold storage, we have 5 metric ton, 10 metric ton modular cold storages. We have also done a 20 metric ton cold storage. So another very interesting project which we are doing right now is solar air conditioning, where with 0 GWP refrigerants. But more than that, it can do hot heating or cooling 24/7 without need of electrical batteries. In addition, our company provides remote monitoring systems, primarily meant for our milk coolers and cold storage units. So this is one of the solutions which our company provides. It's a 200 and 500 liter milk cooling solution, inbuilt ice cooling backup, which means it's a single skid, very fast installation. Apart from that, it has 2 times faster cooling as compared to ISO standards, and we can provide 24/7 cooling with only 5 hours of electricity or solar. So this project was supported by Jeff, CII, and UNIDO. Apart from that, our hottest selling product these days is instant milk cooling. We have seen 5 months of payback with it. This cooling performance chart speaks itself. So the cooling is instantaneous as compared to traditional systems where quality is very hampered. So this system has 5 times higher cooling rates as compared to the nearest competitor, and the capacity utilization of the existing system just doubles. This project was also supported by Jeff and CI and UNIDO. Another product which we have is farm level modular cold storage units. These are in 5 and 10 metric ton designs. So the interesting thing about this technology is a very wide range of temperature which we can provide, 4 to 20 degrees Celsius. The cooling backup, which translates to a solar economy, is double than the nearest competitor. In addition, we have even retrofitted the existing cold storage units with the same technology. Our business model is, so we are primarily a manufacturing company. So we rely on upfront sales, and our clients are dairy, large B2B companies. Most of them are large dairies. Our sales cycles are typically 3 to 4 months of interest to the purchase order, and payments are upfront. So we are a 5-year-old company, but became commercial only 2 years back. This financial year, we have seen 2 times growth as compared to the last year. This year was very bad for us because we were seriously constrained by our manufacturing capacity, and we were very, very choosy in picking orders. We have installations pan India, and also in Uganda. In a month, we will have an installation in Kenya. Our sales pipeline are over $10 billion. So we are expecting minimum 5 times growth in this coming financial year. And so as I was talking about the manufacturing constraints which we have, so we have just moved to a 5 times bigger 1.5 acre factory in Delhi region. This just happened a month back. So we have sales and service offices in Delhi and Bangalore. Delhi is in North India, Bangalore is South India. From employee headcount per site, we are 90 employees. So in 6 months, we have doubled the employee strength. And in next 6 months, we are planning to double it up again. We have 5 channel partners in India, and we are actively looking into getting channel partners for Africa region. Our funding requirements is $3 million, and the end goal of this funding is to achieve $500,000 per month of revenue run rates with positive EBITDA rate. In terms of our funding history, we have raised $3 million till date since 2015, and Shell Foundation and Rajasthan Venture Capital Fund are the leading investors in our company. Out of this $3 million, $1.4 million was raised during COVID times. In terms of team, so we are cooling experts. So Himanshu was my first boss at my first job at Intel. We have over 85 patents. The laptop which you are using will have 15 plus patents from us. We have done electronic cooling for F-35 fighter jets. So my PhD comes from solar cooling background, and apart from that, we do have a very strong advisory board. Dr. Arun Majumdar, he was the ex-Under-Secretary of Energy under Obama administration. He was the founding director for ARPA-E. Dr. Kishore, he is the founder and CEO for over $1 billion NYSE listed company, Max Linear. From impact potential, we can impact over 200 million farmers in India, both dairy and fruit and vegetable, and we can also eliminate 0.2 gigaton of CO2 emissions in a year. This is my last slide. So here you can see a few of those installations which we have done across India. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nitin. Really fascinating to hear about your operations in India and expansion to Uganda and Kenya. Now I'd like to introduce the investor panel. And as I mentioned your names, we can all turn on your videos, and you can just wave when I introduce you. Jim McGuire with Sustainable Development Capital Limited, Dennis Otieno with Acumen East Africa, Mason Wallach with the Southeast Asia Clean Energy Facility, and Eve Comaklo with Oiko Credit West Africa. So you guys have 10 minutes to drill down, and I'll start the clock now. Thank you.
Komaklo here. I just have a quick question. If you could comment on how you managed to double the revenues during COVID. I just wanted to have your perspective on that and how the team was able to pull this off, and how also in terms of margin you were able to manage the COVID period. Thanks.
So it was so in India there was a lockdown for 2 months, so that was the hardest time. Okay, so our head count in the company was 30 employees last January. In June, we became 60. And then when we moved our office back to a new factory, we went down to 45 again. So a lot of up and downs we have seen. But in terms of revenues, one of the reasons is that we had last year, we had a lot of seed installations. And because of those, we got a lot of repeat clients. So in instant milk cooler, we are right now talking to dairies which have seen our system for a year. They are talking about 300 systems, and we are really scrambling. So in terms of patent, we have filed patents in India, but the primary protection I see is proprietary technologies which we don't even file patents. In terms of warranty, we have standard 1-year warranty, and later we charge AMC, which is about 5 to 10%. We do have 10 service installation engineers right now across India. We right now don't have tied up with an insurance company. It is near to impossible, considering the technology is new, but we do plan.
So just again, sorry, would you consider this proven technology, or is it still sort of prototypical?
It is already 3 years. We have installations on the ground for 3 years.
Thank you.
Hi, Nitin. This is Mason. First, thanks for the presentation. I had a question in relation to the price per ton in terms of how you may compare to a CalMac or an Ice Energy or some of the other ice storage technologies, if you can explain that in terms of the size and scale. And the second element is adding on to Jim's question, but as you scale out, how do you plan to grow for customer service as you continue to expand?
So in terms of CalMac, we would, so CalMac is on a very large size of storage. In terms of Ice Energy, we would be probably 4 times cheaper. And so we store roughly, I need to back calculate, but we roughly store 600 kgs of ice at a price point of, selling price point of $3,000. And in terms of we looking into the large orders, one thing which we are working is getting a lot of channel partners who will do installations for us. It is near to impossible for us to look into it each and every small client.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Nitin, thank you so much for the presentation. I have a couple of questions that center on finance and governance. Do you mind walking us through the logic behind your corporate governance board? In my observation, I haven't probably seen someone with a specific cold chain experience, so it would be intriguing to hear your response. And also, I understand that you are looking for $3 million. Currently, you have a pipeline of about $10 million. Do you mind walking us through how you see the $3 million being able to enable you to actually nail the 10 million pipeline opportunity that you have?
So, yeah, so on this pipeline, so we are anticipating 5x growth. So which means in next 1 year, we should be, so right now our run rates are 200K USD. We are targeting to hit, 200K per quarter. Okay, so we are about close to $1 million run rate. So in terms of sales pipeline, this $10 million, we are anticipating to get 30% of it. So, and we don't even have capacities to manufacture $10 million a year. So right now we are at the best 10 million, at the best $3 billion. Realistically, we might be at 2 million order book. And we are for that, we are not doing any government projects. Those are done through channel partners, just to minimize our working capital requirements. On this $3 million, so this would get us to about $0.5 million, which transfers to $6 million run rate of revenues in next two years. And from corporate governance perspective, our investors are Shell Foundation and Rajasthan Venture Capital Fund. Both of them are semi-government funded entities. So governance has been very important.
We have about 2 minutes left for the panel, just for your information.
Yeah, I'll just one more. Could you sort of give us some examples of the channel partners and a little bit more, if you could outline for the crowd, a little bit more on the distribution strategy. How and what are you doing on a national basis in India?
So in India, so for example, in Odisha, we recently did 4 solar cold storage units, a government project, through a channel partner. Now, in past, we have done 10 installations with Selco Foundation. Now, Selco India, which is a private entity, which is a much bigger entity and a profitable entity, so they are becoming a channel partner, and who will buy from us and install it. So that is the way. In Africa, we don't plan to get on our own. Impossible for us. We are actively looking into channel partners. And the 2 installations which we have done through channel partners.
Thank you.
We have time for one more quick question. We got about a minute left. Going once.
I can tell you, right? See, in India, there are 200,000 milk coolers. Each system can be sold at $10,000. 200,000 milk coolers, and then you can translate, right? What is the time for it? And every milk cooling system needs a DG backup, right?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to call it now. Nitin, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank the panel. I'd like to let everybody know we will share a recording of the entire forum. You can put Q&A you can put your questions into the Q&A channel, and we will make sure that the companies answer them. So if you have specific questions for Nitin, you can do that. And with that, I'd like to thank the panel. You can turn your video off, and we'll go to the next presenter, which is Koolboks. And so Koolboks is a company that provides solar refrigeration solutions for sub-Saharan Africa. And the presentation will be Natalie Casey, and she'll be assisted during the Q&A with Ayula Dominic. Natalie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Peter. As Peter said, I'm Natalie Casey. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Koolboks, and we make friendly refrigeration affordable and accessible to all. So the Kool technology is really a first of its kind. It's a refrigerator freezer that is enabled with pay-as-you-go technology, which is ideal for both productive and healthcare use. In 2020, we had our first year of sales with early success, where we exceeded our forecast by 125%, doubling more than what we thought we would sell, and recording a net profit margin of 18%. For this investment opportunity, our focus will be Nigeria. Our company is headquartered in Paris, and we have a local presence in Nigeria, and we do have plans in the near term to expand to other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including the existing distributors that we have in place in 8 other countries other than Nigeria. That we're looking for $2 million in equity financing to continue to build our operations in Nigeria and to expand to additional countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And we expect to exit in 5 years with a 5x return. Leading the venture is a management team with over 40 years of experience in large multinationals. We also have technical expertise in thermal cooling, as well as a local on-ground presence with our sales lead in West Africa. So refrigeration is not widely available in sub-Saharan Africa. The lack of refrigeration leads to significant wastage, an estimated $4 billion of food, and 50% of vaccines are wasted each year in sub-Saharan Africa. In addition, refrigerators are expensive, and those high upfront costs make off-grid refrigeration unaffordable to the end users. And refrigerants are harmful to the environment. As a response to those problems, we provide a solution, which is by using the power of 2 natural forces, the sun and the water, we created a connected off-grid solar refrigerator using patentable Kool technology. And so with that, we offer 24 hours refrigeration by storing energy in the form of ice. We eliminate the upfront costs by offering lease to own and cooling as a service agreements to our customers. And we protect the environment by using environmentally friendly refrigerants. To share with you a little bit of our journey, we were founded in 2018. Our first product was actually a cooler that was more of a lifestyle product sold in more than 70 stores. After launching that product, we had a survey with our customers, and we decided that based on the feedback that it would be important to redesign the product to offer a solar cooling solution. And in 2020, we incubated with the Basel Agency for Sustainable Energy, and with that launched a pilot in Nigeria, working with the fish traders at the Ijora Fish Market. We were also awarded grants by Energy for Access as well as PRIO. And so we initiated, in addition to the fish market pilot, another pilot with a product that we have for the healthcare market, which is Koolboks, in Delta State in Nigeria in November of last year. And finally, at the end of that year, we sold 876 units of the Kool Home product. Currently, we are in the process of pre-qualification with the WHO for our Koolboks vaccine freezer. And we have an ongoing co-branding pilot that is ongoing in the DRC in partnership with Schneider Electric. So Koolboks really unleashes access to solar refrigeration. So we have solar refrigerators that are integrated with IoT, which means that we can offer pay-as-you-go and innovative financing. The IoT also for the Koolboks vaccine freezer product enables us to have remote monitoring. And so the temperature of the freezers can be monitored from anywhere in the world. and also gives an alert to the users if there are if the temperature deviates from the programmed range. The innovative financing means that we can offer our Koolboks products either through direct payment, through lease to own agreements, or as well through servitization contracts through cooling as a service agreements. The market is large, underpenetrated, and growing in sub-Saharan Africa. We estimate that the total off-grid refrigeration market to be $4.4 billion. 770 million people lack access to electricity in sub-Saharan Africa, and the penetration of refrigerators in that area is 17%. According to GOGLA, one of the societies that monitors the adoption of off-grid systems, refrigerators are actually one of the top 3 appliances that are looked for by customers that have adopted off-grid systems. And the total market for refrigerator freezers is growing globally at 7%. So with that in mind, we see immediate opportunities in Nigeria, which is where we would focus our investments in the short term, both for productive and healthcare use. 31 million small businesses require refrigerators for income generation, which is where we would see our Cool Home product be used. And then for healthcare use, we estimate that 28,000 hospitals and pharmacies lack access to cold chain facilities where our Koolboks could be used. This is just to share a bit about the pilots that were ongoing last year. So we piloted the Cool Home product at Ijora Market in Lagos, Nigeria, and you can see what we call sales activation with our sales representatives reaching out to the market women and providing them with some information about how they could save money with our Cool Home solar freezer. In addition to the Cool Home pilot, we also had, this is I think really a great picture that shows the excitement around the Cool Home product. This is an installation where on the right, you see 2 of the market fish traders having a great excitement with the installation. And then also a bit of skepticism in a way to say, is it really possible to that the sun could power the freezer and really help us preserve our products? The second pilot that I mentioned is the Koolboks pilot, and this is ongoing in Delta State, Nigeria, where we've installed several units of the Koolboks, and we're monitoring the performance. So far, the feedback has been very positive. And to share with you a bit about our business model, what we like to say is that Koolboks has a B2B business model with a B2C mindset. And what that means is that we sell our products through a network of distributors in a B2B model, and we facilitate access to the end user through those innovative financing agreements. We have strategic relationships through our commercial partners in West Africa for the moment, with plans for expansion into East Africa, and with asset financing partners that help us to provide those credit facilities to the end user. And we've, through our incubator with BASE, we provide those servitization agreements, and they help us really with the design, development, and implementation of that model in the region. So to conclude, we are again looking for $2 million in equity financing. We have current back orders of $300,000 that are waiting to be filled once we're able to build that inventory. We have plans to build a sub-assembly in Nigeria, where we would invest some of those funds. And then, of course, the programs for expansion into West Africa, as well as East Africa, the Koolboks launch, which is the vaccine fridge, which it would be upcoming, as well as team building, so that we could support our continued growth. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to invite our CEO, Ayola Dominic, to support with the Q&A session.
Natalie, you were spot on time. You actually had 25 seconds left. Very well done. Impressive again to see you beat your forecast by 125% during a pandemic year, and hear about your activities in Nigeria and expansion plans. And I'd like the investor panel to turn on your videos and go ahead, take it away. We have 10 minutes for Q&A.
Thank you, Natalie. My two questions center on operations and investment. And on the operations side, I think my limited knowledge is drawn to this question because I appreciate that you're using two cooling technologies, the thermal and I believe the compressor technology. But my understanding of these markets is that water can sometimes be a source of bottleneck. So how has Koolboks thought about that as a potential growth limitation going forward because it's essential for the ice cooling? And then from an investment aspect, it's a very nascent industry, and it's intriguing to see that you have a 5x return prospect for investors. What are your initial thoughts around what would be the exit roadmap for investors? Thank you.
So, Ayula, could you
Sure.
chime in? Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for that, and thanks, PFAN, for organizing this amazing program. So to answer, I didn't quite get your second question, but I'll go on the first question. My name is Ayala Dominic. Once again, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Koolboks. So regarding your first question as water being an inhibition, it's also good to know that some of our products do come with typical batteries to support the cooling of the compressor. And this we found was being very extremely useful, particularly when it comes to commercial use. Now for domestic use, clearly a lot of them do not have such issues, but definitely for commercial use, we do supplement. So what we do basically is rather than beyond energy savings, we also go to what we call cost savings, because then rather than use 200 AH batteries, for example, for energy storage, then you can only use one, and then you complement with the ice batteries in the refrigerator. So I'm so sorry, I'm not sure I got your second question. So if you can, you repeat that?
Can repeat. The second question was on the exit roadmap for investors, given the nascency of the off-grid supply chain at the moment. And I think you've made a big claim that you can give investors at least 5x returns.
Correct. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, clearly we ourselves saw a massive demand in uptake of off-grid solar refrigeration last year, as you can see from our data. And this was obviously aggravated due to the COVID crisis. And there's the healthcare sector, and also there's the need for storing products at home. What we found out is in recent times that people stay home more often, particularly even in the rural areas, and therefore the need to store has grown massively. And this is not just in urban areas in Nigeria, but also in rural areas, which we're also focusing on. So clearly there's been a sharp rise in demand, and this demand is going to be with us for the next at least 5 years from what we can see. And secondly, in the healthcare sector, we've also been getting a whole lot of inquiries from different healthcare centers. As you can see, we're currently piloting in Delta State. So we also anticipate a massive uptake in vaccine refrigerators, not only in the private sector, but also in the public sector as well.
Just to note, we have 6 minutes left, so I'll have to speed it up a little bit on the Q&A.
Yeah, it's Jim McGuire in Hong Kong. Just a quick question. You've mentioned solar throughout the presentation. I'm not sure I saw how the solar fit in. I think there was a rooftop there. So can you give a little bit more context? Are you solar agnostic? How are you sourcing the solar? You've just mentioned battery support, and so if you could just walk us through a bit more detail, maybe about the technology. Is it transportable solar? How does that work?
Oh, great. Thank you very much for that question, Jim. Basically, to know more about the technology, what we've done differently is normally in typical off-grid systems, you have our systems. Number one is the decentralized cooling system, where we offer refrigeration on the pay-as-you-go basis. Like Natalie said, you can either decide to buy outrightly, you can do a lease to own, or you can actually pay in, we can offer you the cooling as a service, depending on what is preferred by the distributor, who eventually gets to deal with the consumers. So to talk about the technology, since it's decentralized, we have three basic components, which is the in typical refrigeration system, we have three basic components, which is typically the solar panel, you have the energy storage, and then you have the cabinet. So a lot of times during the daytime, when you have the energy from the sun, energy is converted through the solar panel into electricity, which is stored in the batteries and then transferred to the cabinet. In our case, we flip that around. We eliminated the batteries. So what you get to see is you have the solar panel, which is attached to the roof, converting energy to electricity, and then directed directly to the refrigerator cabinet to drive the compressors. Now, what happens is during the daytime, when you have energy from the sun, the energy from the sun makes up ice in compartments that has been made during the day. And so therefore, when there's no energy from the sun at night, the energy that has been made during the day keeps the refrigerator cool for the next day and a couple of days to come. So that's typically how the technology works, basically.
Interesting. Thank you.
I had a question, if it's okay, Natalie. I really appreciate the presentation in terms of your target customer markets. So I think you've done a pilot with fishing villages, which I would think would be a high willingness to pay, as well as with hospitals and medical. Can you explain in terms of your target market going forward for your next rollout? And number two, how you look to segment that revenue, whether it's direct or cooling as a service, if you can just provide a better understanding.
I think we still have plans to address the fish traders, because there are still opportunities. There are a number of markets where we would continue to do our sales activations and to reach the market traders. Anywhere that there are needs to store and freeze perishables, so that could be in other types of food products and small businesses. I think what we really see is more of a need on the productive use rather than domestic use. So we'll look at other types of small businesses where storing those products will help with income generation. So that's on the productive use side. And as you mentioned, on the healthcare use side, we would see the obvious need for vaccine storage, given that there's going to be a massive campaign going in the next couple of years. But beyond that, there are other perishable products like blood products, as well as anti-venom and other types of medical products that would require temperature controlled storage. So I think that private pharmacies as well as public health would be target markets for us for the Koolboks.
Thank you.
Okay, and we can wrap up with a final question from Eve. Sorry to squeeze you a little bit. We got about a minute and a half, but we can go over a little bit. We got a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is Yves, and I have a follow-up question to Mason. Just wanted to have your comments on the business model, and how do you share the margins with the distributors, particularly in as you are also expanding to the rest of West Africa. How it's a separate question. How do the pay-go companies that you have partnered with, whether there's no conflict into their own plans to upscale the current product that they're selling? Thanks.
Thank you very much for that question. Currently, like Natalie said, we are a B2B company, but with a B2C mindset. So the idea is we operate today with a 30% upfront payment before the product is being delivered to them, and then the 70% when it's been before the product is being delivered, and then 70% payment when the product is, before the product is being shipped. So the idea is we have a partnership with them on the cooling as a service and the lease to own, where we drive these activities in the market with them. So we have, like you can see, we have the sales reps in the market. So we partner with them to drive the sales of the product in rural areas and in urban areas, so as to ensure that we're able to help them channel these sales. So there's really no conflict because they are really the face in the countries that they're in. So we're just basically there to act as a support through our partners. And once that's just done, they get their cuts on the product. So for example, in Nigeria, we have distributors that we've partnered with on the cooling as a service. So they buy the products and then we help them see them through the cooling as a service as well, where they also have a percentage on each product that is being offered as a cooling as a service in the market.
Okay, excellent. So we can follow up individually as needed and interested with the investor panel. Thanks to the investor panel. Thank you to Ayoola and Natalie. Really appreciate your time and joining us today. So we're going to move on to the final presentation in this session. You can all turn off your video. And I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Madhusudan Rapol, who is with Orja Energy Engineering, which is a really interesting company that provides innovative and award-winning space cooling solutions. And he is based in India. Madhu, you have the floor for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. All right, thank you again. Greetings to all of you. Hope all of you are having a great day. I'm Madhusudan from Orja Energy, and I'm going to talk about structure cooling that can help us significantly reduce the energy required for cooling our buildings. Structure cooling works differently from the way we are used to cooling our buildings today. Today, we allow the external heat from sun as well as ambient temperature to heat up the building structure. As this heat tries to seep inside, it accumulates in the building structural mass, because these are made mostly of concrete and steel. You can see that the indoor temperatures, surface temperatures, that is what we are exposed to, and these radiate this heat, accumulated heat, to us indoors. We then use energy guzzling or energy intensive equipment like air conditioners to flush this heat out. This is what we are doing today. But imagine if we do not allow this heat to seep inside and flush it from the building structure itself. Then we can bring the temperature of the indoor surfaces closer to what we experience in winters when we do not need air conditioning. So structure cooling works on a very simple principle of flushing this heat out from the building structure itself, using a network of pipes in which we circulate water that is between 18 to 25 degrees centigrade. Now, this water is produced or generated without using any refrigeration technology. We can use two-stage evaporative cooling, or a large body of water, sea or lake, or even a bore well to just flush the heat out. And this helps us reduce the energy consumption by 70 to 90%, because it consumes only 0.05 kilowatt per ton of cooling compared to 1 to 1.2 kilowatt per ton of cooling in air conditioners. Now, to understand why we need to adopt such low energy technologies, we need to understand where we are headed. This was the energy consumption for cooling about 5 years ago. You can see that India's consumption is about roughly 1/4 that of US. But despite India being a tropical country, but this is what it is going to be in 2050, where the demand, the energy demand or energy consumption for cooling is going to increased by nearly 10x in India, surpassing China and US. And this is not surprising because India is also going to have the largest stock of buildings by 2050. Okay. Now, this presents us with an opportunity because 70% of these buildings are yet to be built. And if you get them right at the design stage or initial building, then we do not need to go back and retrofit them after 5 years or 10 years. So, and structure cooling is ideally suited for such new buildings. So why should somebody choose structure cooling? The biggest benefit, of course, is energy consumption, reduction in energy consumption, because in most cases, we're just using a pump to flush the heat out, and there's no need for any compressor or any harmful refrigerants. Structural cooling can also expand the market for cooling. There are a lot of buildings that cannot be air conditioned. For example, college dormitories that we have done, we have implemented this technology in, has natural ventilation. Students are comfortable who live in them and just use fans without requiring any air conditioning. There are many such buildings in India. Not just as India develops, grows economically, there is going to be an aspiration for cooling comfort, just like other material goods that slowly became aspirational, and then people started getting those. And to provide cooling comfort to such large number of people, we need to bring the cost down so that we have cooling available not just in our airports, but also in our railway stations and bus stations, not just in our private hospitals and schools, but also those run by the government. Now, structure cooling is also very well suited in building for implementing cooling with 100% fresh air in buildings, whether it is through natural ventilation or it is through mechanical ventilation. And it's an important benefit in times of COVID, where we do not want to breathe the recirculated air. Right? And we have done such installation in educational sector. The one you see is College of Architecture in a university. We have a very simple business model. We focus on industry influencers. And it's partly also because of the team size that we have. We focus on them to make them understand the structure cooling and the benefits of it. And they decide which projects it would be appropriate for. So when a prospective building owner talks to one of these influencers, wherever it is suitable, and where the client brief is that they want an energy efficient building, the influencers, whether it's architect or HVAC consultant, talks to Urja, we provide a solution, and many times we install these in working together with the construction company. Of course,
so I'm just warning you, you have 3 minutes left. You might want to speed it up a bit, okay?
Sure. So this is the team that got us so far. This is my third outing as entrepreneur. Anand handles all operations. He's an ex-Navy commander and an MBA from USC. Prasad heads commercial, and Lokesh and Vamsi handle planning and business development respectively. So far we have got good traction, and so far we have executed projects worth nearly $5 million, and our average ticket size is growing. Last year we did about $1.25 million of revenue. This year there was a slight dip, but we're confident of having a 3x revenue next year. Our current revenue pipeline is about 25 million. The good part is that at least 50% of this is from the existing customers. So we are looking at achieving our revenue goals, and for which we require $2 million in equity to ramp up or expand our sales team so that we can increase our reach and marketing effort. A significant amount of investment is also required in engineering and operations team. We've come so far on our own team, mainly because of the investments we made in product solution and R&D, and we want to continue to do that, for which part of the $2 million equity would be used. And as we bag the projects that we have in our sales pipeline, we would require a good amount of working capital. Currently, our requirement is about $2 million. So our total requirement is of $4 million, and we can give healthy returns to the investors. Possible exit options for the equity investors would be either buyback or through strategic acquisition, and possibly an IPO too. As with any business, we have risks. We may the technology risk we face is that the technology may not be accepted by the market. We don't see many technical issues with that, but there are multiple reasons why market doesn't accept the technology. Therefore, expanding our team to continuously build a relationship with the market and trade influences is very critical to our efforts. And then there could be a scale of risk, because the current team, even though we have built the business so far, may find challenges in scaling it up further. So we are planning to hire more team members at senior levels who have this experience, and also having training across the board to handle the scale up. And lastly, we may have, or we will have, of course, copycats who may copy our solutions. And the only way we know to fend off competition is to build Urja as a thought and technology leader. We welcome competition as it helps us to expand the market, and being the leader in this market, we believe it mostly will benefit us.
Great, and we'll have to wrap it up.
you
We'll have to wrap it up
for the
there, Madhu.
opportunity.
Thank you so much. That was really good, and just at 10 minutes. Really fascinating. I'd like to ask the investor discussants, panelists, to turn on their videos. You know, this 10-fold increase in cooling over the next 30 years is really daunting, and your approach is certainly strategic and fascinating. So I'll hand it over to the panel for 10 minutes of Q&A.
Madhu, I'll start from Hong Kong. Fascinating. And I'm going to sort of just ask a similar question to the very first presenter. Where and what have you done in terms of your patents? And secondly, how are you backstopping this right now in terms of warranties, performance guarantees? You know, I saw the influencers, the architects, I get that. But how are you integrating your technology solution? Is this pure design with what the EPCs are doing and what the architects are trying to design into a building? Thanks.
Firstly, no, we haven't filed any patent on this, and what we believe in is we don't even want to patent if there is something that is patentable here. We want market to copy this as much as possible. That we believe will help in expanding the market. So in terms of the way our model works, what you're saying is right. We work with the architects, consultants, and the EPC companies to ensure that the solution is delivered. Once it is delivered, yes, we offer warranties and back it up with performance bank guarantees, and additional revenue stream that we get after our warranty period of 1 year is the annual maintenance contracts that we sign either directly with the customers, or if there is some other company which is managing part of that entire HVAC infrastructure.
And can I ask quickly, is that 1 year, 2 year, 4 year, 5 year? How long term are those agreements?
Warranty is typically 1 year, We provide that, and then AMCs are typically 1 year renewable. And it's renewed every year.
Okay.
We get it in 1 year terms usually.
It's it's Dennis here. Thank you, Madhusudan. I think I want to field a question from one of the audience members. And I believe Harold is asking, how does heat pump technology compare with your technology? And how do you calculate the savings before the building is even built? Because that's where your revenue comes from ultimately.
Sure. I would like to differentiate here that heat pump or a chiller is a heat or cooling generation technology, whereas structure cooling is the cooling distribution technology. So I'm technically replacing air handling units and ducting. Okay. What I'm changing is, instead of using chiller or a heat pump, which is a compressor-based technology, we do install the same thing. We call it radiant cooling, but the biggest difference here is that I'm using a cooling generation technology that does not use compressor, and just temperature of 18 to 25 is enough to flush out the heat that is trapped in this building thermal mass. So when we use such technologies, which don't use compressor, you are spending, the energy that you're spending on is mostly a pump motor, which if you calculate per ton energy consumption comes to about 0.03 to 0.05 kilowatt per ton. One difference I do want to underline here is, yes, we're not talking about the same comfort, that 24 degrees, 50% RH kind of a comfort, though it is possible to hybridize structure cooling like we have done in some projects with the conventional air conditioning, thereby significantly bringing down the size of the conventional air conditioning. But the idea is also to expand this to a larger market that cannot be cooled. A bus stand cannot be cooled. It cannot be air conditioned, right? But you need to provide some comfort. Same with railway station, right? There are a lot of buildings like that, which today do not come under the definition of air conditioning market.
I had a one clarification and a question after that. Is first, it appeared from looking at your pitch that you're putting in situ hydronics. Is this like a hydronic system for cooling of the structure?
Okay. That's correct.
Okay, so then if it's in situ hydronics, and just thinking about how you're going to provide that comfort is your cooling area, and you mentioned that in some cases it could be the sea, and I'm just curious on how you may be limited, not just by the sea, but because there's a lot of inland areas where you may not have that, or boreholes. How big is the actual market that you could serve, say, besides cooling nearby the sea?
So in most installations, we don't use seawater, right? It's only if a city wants to go to a district cooling, like what Toronto has done, or there are some other projects where they use the lake water. But in most cases, these are buildings installing on their own. So if you see the amount of water consumption, it is same as, or maybe a little less than what one would use if one were to use a water-cooled chiller. So it's through an evaporation of water that we are getting this cooled water. In a lot of residential buildings or even commercial buildings, what we are now proposing is, if water is a constraint, then you can treat the wastewater, which anyway is used for landscaping in India, when you don't have much landscaping to do, and that water can be repurposed to be used in these evaporative cooling systems. We typically implement two-stage evaporative cooling so that we get lower than wet bulb temperature. So that is how we are implementing in most cases. Our vision is to, if you can do it at a city level, I mean, we are in the game. But right now we are at a building level.
Thanks, Madhu.
This is Yves here.
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering whether 2 million in equity and 2 million in working capital wouldn't be on the low side for your needs. So therefore, when are you expecting your next funding round? And also, what is the most likely exit scenario for an equity investor who would come now? You identified three, but which one would be the likeliest? Thanks.
Sure. 2 million in equity for 2 years, we believe is sufficient because most of our current strategy is B2B. We do not intend to go spending through the roof for anything. The main reason why we need this money is we need the quality of the team that needs to be in place to go and further build relationships with these influencers. And that is what we are primarily investing in. And then you also need to build an engineering and operations team to back up this sales team, right? So it's mostly for the team and to further improve our solution offering, where we are not doing any fundamental research, we're just improving on what we are already providing. So in terms of equity, we believe that is enough. But what you are right in terms of the debt. So what we are asking for is the debt that we require now, and as we close projects, we may require higher amount of debt. That I agree, but we are planning to take the debt that we believe we require at this point. And many of our projects, even if this project is of $2 million, we rotate the money. I mean, at every given point of time, I'm doing a billing of, let's say, 100,000 or 200,000, delivering the material, installing it, and then rotating that money. So that's typically a 45 to 60-day cycle. So I really don't need more than 20 to maximum 25% of a project value as my working capital. So we are asking for debt only what we can service. We don't want more than what we can chew.
So we have a minute left if there are any other questions, or if not, Madhu, you might want to make some final remarks, but any questions from the esteemed panel?
I've got a quick one, Madhu. Are you seeing any pushback on a regulatory side from from either a state or at a federal level? I mean, you've got aspirations for national deployment, I assume.
Yes, we are installing this nationally. We are not seeing any pushback. In fact, we are finding it very encouraging because India is pushing for energy conservation building code. In some states, it has become mandatory. So we are seeing that as tailwinds that are helping us in implementing these solutions.
But that's by state.
So regulatory framework is more. Sorry.
That's by state, not at a federal level.
Yes, the push is from the federal level, but the building codes have to be adopted by the states. So there are a few states which have made it mandatory. Some have made it voluntary, but we see that it is going to go in a direction where at some point the local urban bodies and the states are going to say we have to conform to the energy conservation building code.
So Madhu, thank you so much for your time. Thanks to the investors, to the investor panel. Don't forget to go to the debriefing room right after this, and I'm going to pass it back. Thank you, Madhu, and you can all turn off your videos, and I want to invite Mark Lister back in to take us to the next phase.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you to all of our investor panel and all of our presenters for putting up some really interesting discussion on these three projects. Thanks also to all of you in the audience for your participation. I can see we have 18 open questions in the Q&A panel, which is terrific. All of those are recorded, and we'll be getting back to those either during the session from our presenters who've already spoken or after if we can't get to them.
That's a business about energy saving, water heating, and air conditioning. Our product and service is focusing on the innovative concept, energy efficiency, and also environment-friendly products.
PFAN is a private financing advisory network, and what we do is we connect project developers with investors. The project developers are companies that are looking for investment in the range of somewhere between $1 and $50 million, and they need a little help to improve their business plan, to develop their financial model and be able to reach out and talk to investors.
First time when we start the business, we focusing on product development and marketing, but we quite don't know how to starting to finance and have the funding from outside investor.
So PAC came to our attention because they had won a global award for clean tech innovation, and they work in the area of air conditioning and water heating, and essentially taking the excess heat from air conditioning and transferring it into water heating, therefore saving a lot of energy. And what we were able to do is to go and work with their people on their technology, and they know the markets, but to basically put it together into a more cohesive business model, and then develop the financials to a point where they're able to present these to an investor and raise investment.
After we have attended the PFAN coaching process, we think that the coaching session about finance, how to make the financial models, financial plan is the most valuable part for PAC at that time. We don't know how to work as a long-term plan, short-term plan. So the coach advised us a lot how to do that, and also the risk mitigation. So that part, I think it is the most valuable for the coaching process. I would like to suggest the female entrepreneur who running the business in clean energy sector to have the connections or networking with the institute or the program that can bring you to the opportunities. I think this kind of support or network will gain you a lot more benefit in your business.
เมืองไทยเป็นเมืองร้อนเราใช้แอร์เยอะอยู่แล้วครับแล้วเราก็เห็นแนวคิดว่าการใช้แอร์เนี่ยมาทำน้ำร้อนเนี่ยมันเป็นแนวคิดที่ทำได้จริงเราก็ได้ตัดสินใจศึกษาครับเราก็ตัดสินใจเลือกแท็กโครงการเรามีแนวคิดที่เป็นอีโคอยู่แล้วครับเพราะว่าช่วยลดพลังงานลดต้นทุนของเราด้วยครับ
They have the product that I wanted with the water heater, with the solar panel to save me the electricity bill. My overall saving is about 30%, which is a whole lot when you pay them out in over 5 years. My electric bill is reduced. I'm very happy with the PAC product. The after-sales service, the maintenance, reliability, and then most of all, it helps me save a lot of electric bill.
In the long term, I think we would like to grow the business not only in water heating and air conditioning, but we would like to go beyond in energy saving innovations, and not only in Thailand and in domestic market, but we would like to go internationally.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back from the break. I hope you had a chance to refresh and hopefully share some more details and information with people and make some connections as well. You've just seen, if you've rejoined us a few minutes ago, a short video just playing of a company that's found support through PFAN in the using waste heat from air conditioning. So a cooling project that's found success through its supporting PFAN, and we would really encourage you, if you want to know more about PFAN, to reach out to some of the people who've provided you your details, provided you with some details today, and also through the PFAN website, which is www.pfan.net. There's a load of information in there about how you can get involved and be part of the network. So let's come back from the break now. We've got two more great presentations. I wanted to ask our investors who've been listening and asking detailed questions along the way what their impressions are, and so maybe I'll call on the investors between Jim, Mason, Yves and Dennis, just to give us a couple of minutes of maybe some reflection or feedback before we launch into the next round of presentations. So I'm not sure who will be speaking among you, but please go ahead. Jim, a few words, and Mason, go ahead.
Actually, I think Yves was going to make some remarks, Jim, right? So Yves, can you turn on your video?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mark, Jim. Yes, we have discussed amongst ourselves. The first point is that we have 3 strong projects that were presented, and we acknowledge that the change of format this year was a good thing for us because it would have been hard to, if it was a competition, it would have been hard to identify the winner, or so far the winner. And because all three have clearly demonstrated the scope and scale of the opportunity and potential profitability of the project. Some of the things, well, we were also quite impressed by the technology solutions presented, but beyond those technology, some of the things we discussed among ourselves, we looked at them through the lens of an investor, and there are still some challenges that needs to be considered for some of the for the project. So I will not point to individual projects, but we feel that there's a need for to strengthen or to go further in the SWOT analysis, particularly in terms of analysis of the competition, analysis and identification of the competition, and within value chain competition. So the question on other stakeholders, middlemen, etc. We also talked about, and it's related, on the distribution strategy, as all three projects want to scale up. The question of the distribution strategy and its sustainability will come in at one stage. Yeah, guys, if you want to chip in, happy to for Mason or Dennis to chip in for me. So, but back to you, Mark.
Okay, great. Well, in the interest of time, I think we'll move on. Some great reflections there. Thanks, Yves. And you know, like too many issues being raised here to cover in the time that we have. But let's keep the conversation going in the sidebar. While during the break, I noticed a number of items of feedback and a number of people putting forward great ideas, and that's really what it's all about. So let's move on to our second session in here about two more great projects. Which will be interesting, I'm sure, for all of us to hear more about. And to take us through this next session, I'm going to introduce you to another important person in the PFAN family, in the wide range of advisors, coaches, and coordinators that make up PFAN around the world. Albert Boateng is the PFAN regional coordinator for West Africa, and he's going to be our moderator and keep time taking us through the next two presentations and the questions from the investors. Please go ahead, Albert. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mark, for the introduction. As you just said, I am the regional coordinator for PFAN in West Africa, but PFAN provides sub-Saharan wide operations. That includes East Africa and Southern Africa. So we have country regional coordinators in East Africa based in Kenya and Southern Africa based in South Africa. Just like we heard Yves representing the investor panel talking about the amazing projects that were just presented, we are about to hear two more of such projects, one of which is based in Africa from Kenya and the other in Bangladesh in Asia. Without much ado, I would like to introduce our first presenter, Mohammed, who is presenting on behalf of AgroLink. AgroLink is an integrated end-to-end coaching logistical business with a global reach and seeking to push their frontiers even further. So Mohammed, if you are ready, please take it over from me and let's hear what you have to say.
Thank you very much. Now I will straight go to my presentation. If you can see. Thank you, everyone. Now I'm going to present the project that I'm going to present is cold chain logistics and global export of processed shrimp. I am Mohammed Saifullah. I am the heading the company ACI AgroLink Limited. Basically, ACI AgroLink Limited is a group, is a subsidiary of ACI Group. ACI Group has four major divisions, as you can see. One is the ACI Agribusiness, which is the largest agriculture integrator in the country. Then we have ACI Consumer Brands that has several leading national brands in food and household categories. We have ACI Pharmaceuticals, which is also a big leading pharmaceutical in Bangladesh. And the retail chain, we have a large modern retail chain network of more than 160 plus outlets throughout the country. So the entire chain of food basically being covered by 4 divisions. Then this group also sponsor one bank and one insurance company, and it has joint ventures and more than 20 production facilities throughout the country. Some of the brands, global brands that we are affiliated with, we have production and distribution facilities of some of them, and we are exclusively operating in Bangladesh on those. The group made USD 81.7 million net operating revenue in 1920 with 10% growth, having USD 16.6 million market capitalization through stock exchange, having 37 business units and 17,000 plus employees. The shareholding of ACI Limited constitute 40% from institution, 24% from public, and 35% from sponsors and directors. Now that I am presenting ACI Limited, we are into this climate adaptive shrimp value chain. The business is basically contract farming, inbound logistics, processing, and export of shrimp. The industry we are operating is a processed food industry. We have a seafood product, and in the global, we are working in the global region. And the unique value proposition that we are offering to our our customer, is the freshness from farm to fork. And the key resources we use for this is end-to-end cold chain logistics. The global shrimp industry is USD 32 billion annual global trade. It is one of the most prestigious food item to consumers. Bangladesh has a long legacy of supplying shrimp to the global market. Bangladesh aims to export USD 3 billion next 5 years. Bangladeshi black tiger is the most premium shrimp in the world because of nutrient comes to the river water from Sundarban, the largest mangrove forest in the world. The black tiger from this area has the most premium taste in the world. Our factory is located in the middle of the shrimp farming area, where majority of the shrimp is organically produced through traditional cultivation system. Our business operation model, our farmers will be given quality input support through our partner input suppliers. Farmers will grow shrimp in their farm based on our guideline. Once harvested, our exclusive collection agents will collect shrimp from the farms and transport it to regional collection point in specialized cooling van. And from there, our freezer van will carry the shrimp to our factory for processing. Our factory refrigeration system has specially designed energy efficient cooling system, which can bring the required temperature in less than 30 minutes, where it takes several hours for our competition. Our specially designed cooling operations will also ensure freshness of product, energy efficiency, wastage reduction, and one is the commercial aspect, no middleman. We have a well-defined plan to mitigate the business risk. There is price fluctuation in the global market, yes, that is true. But in our industry, raw materials price is given from the processing company to the suppliers, which they adjust with the global market price. Therefore, gross profit is always maintained, and even the price drops in the global market, we can ensure the gross profit. There is a seasonality of raw materials. We use alternative species and semi-intensive supply sources, which can supply throughout the year. That is how we maintain this supply. As I have already mentioned, this black tiger, this is a premium product and sold 37% premium than other competition. So in the global market competition, it's actually stand out when there is a demand and supply situation. In the same way, if there is any disease break, we can move to other species and also from other areas where we can source the same black tiger within our country. For the investment, we are asking for USD 4.5 million equity for 32% shareholding. We are expecting an investment return in 5 years, 4.5 times return. We are also asking a debt of USD 3.34 million for a period of 5 years. Our payback period for this project is 3.46 years. Equity IRR 37.7% and project IRR 28.5%. EBITDA for fifth year, it will be 10.37 million and turnover will be 29.06 million. We have mentioned the exit strategy for the investor. One is, the repurchase, selling stake to third parties, and initial public offering that is also there. That will add value to the kind of freshness that actually we are bringing to our product. All are aligned, every activity that we have mentioned. In this investment relation, we have focused on farmer aligned supply chain. That will be one of the major area for our investment. Then this cold chain network, quality control system, automation and IT infrastructure, and worker skill and development. You can see a picture of our factory. That's middle of a production hub around the shrimp producing area. Our chairman is Dr. Mr. M. Anisudullah. He was basically in British Oxygen Company in 1972, and also he has joined ICI, a British company, in 1987. Then ICI divested its share, and he took the share of ACI and he formed this ACI company. Mr. Dullah was also the president of Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industries, president of Bangladesh Employers Federation, chairman of Mutual Trust Bank, chairman of Pioneer Insurance, and also president of Bangladesh Seed Association. Mr. Dullah was awarded Business Person of the Year 2017. He also received Best Enterprise of the Year and also received Most Respected Company Award 2013 for ACI. Dr. Arif Dullah, our managing director, he has been the managing director for 13 years. He served as a chairman of Mutual Trust Bank and also the vice chairman. He's appointed as honorary consul of Belgium in Bangladesh since 2011. And he was also the global leader honorary of the World Economic Forum 2019. Then we have Dr. S.H. Ansari. He's a legendary business icon in agriculture industry with more than 40 years of professional experience. He has established plenty of new business units in ACI and now contributing more than half of the group turnover. I am leading the company ACI Agri Limited, which is a subsidiary of ACI Limited, and engaged in production, processing, marketing, and export of agriculture and food products. I have launched several new businesses, including shrimp processing for global market, Anchor Dairy, jointly with Fonterra, New Zealand. And also I have launched a fish retail for, the name is Fish Harbor.
Mohammed, you have a minute to wrap up.
Okay. Then I will not go much details here. Factory is established over 43,000 square feet of floor with 30 tons per day production capacity, which with European cooling system. We have 33,000 more farmers and 4,200 acres of farming land. And in 1920, our export was USD for 8.5 million. We have made over 1,000 metric ton shipment in 58 containers in Europe and Asia. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for keeping to the time. I see that you have an amazing group that you operate as a subsidiary, and given that the parent company was able to do 10% growth 2019 to 2020, if a child were to look anything like a parent, I foresee you doing something similar in the future. Keep up the good work. Over to you, the panel of judges. I present to you Mohammed, and he's all yours. Please take him and go ahead.
Thank you, Mohammed.
So, yes.
It's Dennis here. I think it's great that you've mentioned that as a commodity, shrimp typically faces global fluctuation in prices. So I'm interested to know from you how resilient shrimps have been in the export market before and what your future outlook looks like, because if at all your projections were to hold, there's a potential for a shrimp glut in the market, and this can literally lead to a tanking of prices. And the second aspect is beyond your current product diversification. Are there any other thoughts that can lead to a mitigation of this particular risk? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I have already mentioned, shrimp is always a preferred food throughout the world. It is always been actually, there is always been a demand of shrimp. Even when there is no season in Bangladesh, at that time also we have to export shrimp from other species. So that is always being there, and we have we have seen that during the COVID period when the entire Europe was shut down. Still, actually, we had to meet up some demand from France, from Germany, from Netherlands. So the demand, the orders were actually continue to come in our hand, and we have to meet up that. And sometimes situation goes like this: like we have orders, but we don't have enough, backward linkage or supply. That's why we have focused on the farmer aligned supply chain that we need to invest. So that is one area of for your question. And the second is we have also other species, like maybe that Bangladesh is the third world's third biggest supplier of inland fish. We have a big resources of inland fish of different species. That is there. We have a sea catch products. So those are the kind of things that also exported from Bangladesh as a frozen food. So in this seafood category, this is quite rich, and whenever we have any risks in one species, we can easily move to other species with the same facility, because the freezing system is same. The labors are actually trained in the same way. So it is not so difficult, and it is very easy for us.
Mohammed, thanks so much for the presentation. I had just some questions in terms of your capitalization and your ask. And the first is in relation to the debt, where it shows to me there's a DSCR of 3.8 at a 4% interest rate. And I'm just trying to understand how that interest rate compares to, say, the local interest rates for other companies or others in the group in terms of what they could get from the local market, and why is it priced at this rate?
For the other local companies, actually, currently during this COVID situation, there is a special instruction from government. But usually, the other group members, because it's a large group, and all, in fact, all the other SBUs, they are actually trying to expand. So the overall group borrowing is high, and sometimes we have to. The local rate is quite high, like 8 to 12%. It goes from 8 to 12% kind of things. So sometimes it becomes very difficult for us to actually match it with the kind of commodity business that we are doing, which is very price sensitive. That's why actually we made that.
And then just one follow-on question: Are you asking, or are you offering equity along with debt as a package transaction, or are they two separate transactions?
Two separate, but we are flexible.
Okay. Thank you.
Eve here. Just a quick question of clarification.
Yes.
You mentioned that you are involved in contract farming. I was wondering whether, in terms of your support to those farmers or cooperatives, whether the cold chain would extend to the premises of those cooperatives.
Yes. Yes.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, because I have shown that we have regional collection points. So with one regional collection point, there will be multiple collection agents attached with that regional collection point. These collection agents will go to farms with ice and ice wasp, and they will collect the shrimp from there, and they will bring to regional collection point where the grading and sorting will be done. And then from there, the freezer van will take them to our factory.
Mohammed, it's Jim in Hong Kong, and I've just got a very basic question. You highlighted the risks, etc. Having looked at investments into Bangladesh previously, how do you manage the flood risk, the water risk, and what your assets floating away, if you will?
Basically, you are very right. In that area, there are frequent cyclone and all of the things.
Yep.
But our factory is actually far away from that and very in above land. And there basically there is no flood in the history. Only some of the very south farmers, they face these cyclone problems. So they're basically also, the kind of support we will give to the farmers, there will be some kind of infrastructure support will be also there so that they can build their farms in such a way that they can actually protect their farms. So that kind of support will also be there. And in our projects, and apart from the projects, we are also encouraging our southern people, because we have very continuous relation with farmers to actually grow mangrove forest around the farming area, which can protect their streams.
Yeah, no, from our perspective, from a risk profile perspective, that exposure to the contract farmers and the inability to actually get product to you at certain times of year, that's something that we would want to sort of understand, at a very granular level.
Yeah, it depends. It's actually we don't the selection of the farms when we go for contract farming in a such a way that we assess the risk, and based on the assessment of our checklist, we select the farm. In that case, we see that whether they are capable to supply throughout the year, and that kind of things is covered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I take it that there are no further questions from the panel. And thank you very much, Mohammed. I see you are minimizing your exposure to performance risk by being actively involved at early stage and at every major activity node of the supply chain. Thank you. You may take your seat whilst I introduce the next presenter. And thank you, panel of judges, for your questions. So the next on the agenda is a project from Kenya, from Africa. It's called Sokofresh. Sokofresh has an interesting model that keeps two important economic and market actors happy. They offer cold storage services to smallholder farmers and buyers. I would like Dennis Karima, who's going to present to us today, to take it over, so I don't give you the details of what is it that this company does. So Dennis, I hope you're ready. I see your presentation is up. Please take it over.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dennis Karema from Sokofresh, and thank you for taking this time to just hear about our story. So we, as Sokofresh, has an innovative company that is providing cold storage as a service and market linkage to farmers and buyers. So we set up at first mile, where there is the biggest risk of quality deterioration. We provide cold storages and other aggregation tools that really safeguard the quality of the produce. And our goal is to be able to make climate smart innovations accessible to smallholder farmers. The issue that we are working on solving is one that we see in the market, that there is a cold storage deficit, and this has a direct impact on the high post-harvest losses that are being experienced in countries like Kenya and other sub-Saharan countries, where 30 to 40% of the produce is lost. But then looking deeper into this, we find that the cold storage technologies exist, but what is lacking is actually a business model and a financial model that can catalyze the mass adoption. So when you look at the business case of cold storage for a smallholder farmer, one, the upfront cost of the cold storage is quite high. Secondly, most of the produce is seasonal, and so really it's a challenge for smallholder farmers to be able to make a case for them to afford to invest in it. And also when you look at some of the cooperatives, they are also dealing in seasonal produce. And we are looking for $500,000 of equity investment. This helps us to be able to further prove our model and also catalyzes access to blended finance. We want to use these funds to further build our team for scale. We want to fulfill demand for 15 additional cold storage hubs and also develop technology for market linkage. So we kick off our service in 3 chains, and these are three key value chains in the horticultural value chains here in Kenya, which is avocado, mango, and French beans. Each of these has produce that is highly sensitive to changes and fluctuations in temperature. Also that this produce has a high export value. And for avocado and mango, we have the value chains as complementary, and French beans, which is also one of the largest exports coming from Kenya. Our business model is twofold. So we have a flat monthly fee model where we rent out cold storages, particularly in the French bean value chain where production happens all year round. And here our key customer is the exporter who has an outgrower farmer scheme out in the rural areas. And then we have the pay-as-you-store model, where we charge smallholder farmers a rental fee per kilo per day, and they're able to have the produce stored. And we have additional services which really pushes the adoption of cold storage, which is market linkage at a fee, and also providing the necessary infrastructure for produce handling, which mainly is the use of food-grade crates. The key to our business model working is on really making sure that cold storage utilization across the year is at its optimum. And we have done this by partnering with cold storage providers that have mobile solar-powered technology. This enables us to be able to set up in any region within a day or two. And so we are able to migrate the cold storages 3 to 4 times a year. So what you see here is that, for example, in Kenya, we have a defined season for mangoes in a particular region of the country. We have a defined season for avocados. And so we are able to move the storages from the mango zones, for example, to the avocado zones, and really be able to maximize on the utilization of these cold storages. They are completely off-grid, as I've mentioned. And so we are really able to harness on the power of the sun, given that we are here in the tropics. Each cold storage is able to generate about 12,000 euros in revenues and about 5,000 euros in margin. And when we look at our competitive landscape, so we already, as I've mentioned, so there are cold storage manufacturing companies that exist. But then when I look at the cold storage as a service and really offering first mile cold storage, we are actually the pioneers that bring together cold storage and market linkage in these value chains. So it's very key for our business model that the technology is one that is proven. And so we are working with a company called Ecozen from India that develops the technology that we are using. And we expect to break even in 3 years. We are currently still in a pilot phase. In 3 years, we'll have about 100 cold storages linked to 8,500 farmers. In terms of milestones, so we began with a feasibility study in the year 2019, and then we had already early adopters who signed agreements with us, launching customers. And so we've been able to deploy cold storage in the mango zones, and we now have just started moving them to the avocado zones in readiness for the avocado season here in Kenya. We have over this month signed an agreement with the largest exporter here in Kenya called the East Africa Growers to be able to serve thousands of smallholder farmers that are growing French beans across the country. And so these smallholder farmers will be able to store the produce at the cold storages as it awaits transportation by East Africa Growers. We are also just secured a grant of 600K that enables us to add additional cold storages from Ecozen. And we are continually building our pipeline, and the $500,000 investment that we are looking for hopefully comes in Q3 of this year, and it really enables us to prove this model, build on our team, and also give us leverage to access blended financing or debt that will enable us get to over 500 cold storages by the end of 2028. We already have seen quite some interest in our service in neighboring countries of Tanzania and Uganda, and so in the year 2025 we'll already be launching to get into new countries. So we also have further equity rounds that enable us to gain entry into these countries. And make Sokofresh work, we have a brilliant and well-motivated team. We have myself as a CEO with 10 plus years of experience in IT and business modeling. We have our CFO, Paul, who's also with me in this call and will join in the Q&A, and a local team of brilliant people who are helping us to prove this model. In our advisory board is Mikil and Feni from Enview. Enview is a venture building studio from where Sokofresh was born. And we also have Like from Rabobank, who's really been one of the key people who are sounding board in the business. Of some of our current clients, so we have agreements with large off-takers like TrueTrade, HDI, and East Africa Growers. These are local companies working in these value chains that are really smallholder focused. We also have our own hubs where we set up the cold storage and really just have smallholder farmers coming and plugging into the cold storages. And then in terms of market linkage, as I've mentioned, one integral bit of cold storage adoption is really linking the produce and the farmer to the market. So we have quite a huge number of off-takers already who we've worked with, and also in terms of partners, we are working with quite a wide range of different partners who've enabled us to get to where we are. And in summary, we are seeking $500,000 in investment. We offer cold storage that is solar powered. Each container has about 5,000 kilos of capacity. Our customers are farmers, co-ops, and exporters. It's a pay-as-you-store model. We maximize utilization by moving the cold storage from one region to the other to take advantage of seasonality. We have market linkage as a key catalyst to cold storage adoption. We currently have a waiting list for about 15 sites. That's about $132,000 in revenue for just this year. Just a month ago, we were recognized by Accenture and the World Economic Forum as one of 17 most promising circular economy startups worldwide. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and congratulations on your recent feats. I recognize that you have elegantly presented your company. Let's see what the judges, the panel of investors have to say, whether they are as convinced as I am. Over to you, Jim, Mason, and Dennis, and Eves.
Well, I'll start off here in Hong Kong. I just in a spirit of transparency, as a Californian, I'm a big fan of anything that promotes avocados. Dennis, so the question I have is related to the distribution, and you've highlighted there the cooperatives and who you're targeting, but how do you plan to ramp that up? How do you take that from 15 to 50? Is that through, so in other words, what are the distribution strategies that you all are looking at within your business model to really accelerate what is what looks like an unbelievably compelling opportunity or offering?
Thanks, Jim. One of the things that has been quite a tipping point for us is industry associations. So both the Avocado Society here in Kenya, the Fresh Produce Exporters Association, because they connect with what we are doing. Their members have had this as one of the challenges that has reduced Kenyans' competitiveness in the global markets. And so they are really the ones pushing this. So even the agreement we just signed with the largest exporter just came from one of the recommendations from the industry association they are in. And so we see that as quite critical. And the other one is also leveraging on some of the development agencies that are working with these farmers, because they understand the need. Some of them have grouped farmers in cooperatives. And so we are able to plug in from the high level and then really service all these cooperatives that have already been organized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Eve's here. Oh, go ahead, Dennis. Go ahead.
Sorry. Thanks a lot to my namesake. My question is centered on what have been the 3 key learnings from your pilot, and how have those learnings impacted or informed your business and financial model?
Great. Yeah, thanks. I think one of our key learnings is not to underestimate the impact of market linkage on our proposition. So we have seen that one with a growing demand, particularly like, for example, now in the avocado season, of buyers who want fresh avocados that have been aggregated in our cold storage, that has really ramped up the utilization rate. The second thing that we have also learned is just that the need for cold storage is not only in the horticultural value chains, but that also the need extends to dairy as well as fish, for example, here in Kenya, and that the barrier is still that there is not as a service model that addresses this need. So really just opening up the horizon for growth opportunities. And the third one is that the technologies that we work with, we should not limit ourselves to one particular technology. So because in our business model, the initial cost of the cold storage is a key part of our model. And so when we are looking at how can we be able to drive down the cost, the initial cost of cold storage, how can we be able to really make that a bit more competitive by looking at what are other innovations out there that can still work with our model.
Sorry, can I just, before Eve, you go, or Mason, can I just ask a quick question on that? So you are technology agnostic in terms of what you will use as that cold storage. There's no long-term agreement, a supply agreement or anything with the EcoZen.
Yes, so we are technology agnostic. We are so we looked into about when we started about 18 different off-grid cold storage providers. EcoZen came top based on our criteria, but as new innovations come in with maybe more efficient or larger capacity cold storages that are mobile, we are open.
Thanks. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, just to follow up on that point, and I must disclose that EcoCredit, we are an investor in EcoZen. So I was just, I just wanted, just for clarification and just your perspective on the competitive landscape. I liked the map that you draw, but you know, the field is fast moving. Where do you see the competition moving?
Yes, so one, I think thanks for investing in EcoZen. Maybe it's because of it that they have quite a compelling product. Yeah, so I think what I have seen is more and more companies that are technology builders are looking at companies like us to be able to really increase their market share. I think there is a challenge of really making it as a service when you are the technology provider, because you limit yourself to just your own capabilities. And so I'm seeing quite some collaboration already happening and conversations with different technology providers who are saying, Sokofresh, we like what you're doing. We have customers that we can't service because they can't afford our technology. Could we team up together to be able to meet the needs of these customers? Yeah. Any other question?
Thanks. Yeah, just quickly. Okay. Just quickly, I just wanted to see what other value chain you are exploring and whether you are looking at mangoes and avocados in neighboring countries as well.
Yes, so we already have quite some interest in avocados coming from Tanzania. As you know, East Africa is really becoming the hub of avocado production in the world. And so that's one of them. In Kenya, we also have a growing interest in herbs and other highly perishable export-oriented crops. And so that's also a key concern for us in the short term. As I said, in the long term, there is also a lot of interest in dairy, fish, and other value chains that are still suffering from the same challenges of 40 to 50% loss.
Dennis, I just had a quick question, if it's okay, in terms of your valuation or the pricing of your shares. I wasn't clear, although it's a relatively small ticket for under $1 million, but just curious if you could explain if you have a landing on your offering.
And probably to piggyback on that question, there's an interesting question here from the Q&A. How does your system work when you have prolonged cloud cover, making solar difficult to work? Sorry, thank you.
Great. So I'll speak on the second question, and my colleague Paul will speak on the evaluation. So the technology that we use incorporates thermal cooling, which means that you have about 36 hours of cooling, even in bad weather. But then based that we are in the tropics, and also that most of these regions where horticulture is thriving are also some of about semi-arid areas, we have not experienced in the past 1.5 years any challenges, even when it's a cloudy day. So I think the technology has held up so far, and we expect it to continue working. Yeah, Paul?
Hi guys. What was the exact question on the valuation?
Oh, just before you come in, please, you have just about 1.5 minutes to make your comments or contribution.
Okay. So just in terms of the 500,000, what does that represent in terms of the equity that's being offered, or just try to understand a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think, of course, we're quite early stage. So we've looked at what do we need in the next 3 years. We actually have quite a lot of interest also from debt providers. So we looked at what do we need in terms of equity to leverage the debt, because they go up to about 60 or 70% of the assets, and that would be about 500K. It would be most logical to now look at a convertible loan or some convertible notes, as it's quite difficult, I think, to assess the exact valuation. And as Dennis mentioned, there's also a grant still coming in, so there is quite some runway, but this would really help us scale for next year towards the 100 first storages.
Okay, I think we've had an interesting discussion, and then I think we've had good answers from you, Paul and Dennis. At this point, I'd like to just summarize the last session of this program. I'm happy to say, I'm happy to have listened to both you and then the presenter from AgroLink. You joined the role of earlier presenters that I believe, in my estimation, you've been able to make a good case as to why investors should join you on your journey in raising finance. This brings to an end the pitch presentation for the last two projects, and I'd like to hand it over to Mark to take over from here. Mark, over to you.
Thanks very much, Albert, and thanks to our two presenters in that session as well. In fact, thanks to all our presenters for making this into really quite a fascinating set of presentations and set of opportunities for investment. So we have about 15 minutes to run. The other group I'd really like to thank, there's two more things to do, which is to sort of wrap up the question. Maybe some of you are asking about where to from here. So that's something coming up. Obviously, we want to take forward the interest that some of you have expressed, the interest that may be out there, and continue to facilitate relationships between these projects seeking investment and potential funders. So that's something that we'll do. But before we throw to that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in closing, I also really want to thank our 4 investors on our panel today for channeling their own questions plus the questions of the audience. And I think it's appropriate to just let each of the four panelists just give us 1 or 2 minutes of comments about how you found these presentations, any overall remarks about what you've heard, maybe any encouragement for any of the presentations in how they should proceed from here. So I'm not sure which order you want to go in, but maybe we can take Jim first, and followed by Mason, Dennis, and Eve. So maybe just 1 or 2 minutes, Jim, on your impressions.
Thank you. I guess we're going from the oldest to the youngest. I would, for all the presenters, thank you very much. I thought that was exceptional. I really enjoyed it. And I guess as we look at investments and particularly in many of the areas that you've highlighted and talked about, I guess the three key things which are important to us is the distribution strategy, how you are going to partner, how you're going to deploy your technology, and to the second point, at scale. What we are looking at is how to get bigger, faster, and what we want to understand is your plan to do that. And then lastly, what I would highlight from our perspective, what Sustainable Development Capital Limited looks at, we believe that there is plenty of proven technology that can make a difference in terms of offshore cold chain or building efficiency. And so what I'd encourage you all to do is look at how that technology piece within your various initiatives, how you can strengthen it, what are the warranties, who you can partner with. Should you be looking and talking to insurance industry participants or engineering consulting firms to try and make sure that your technology, the technology angle is that much more appealing to us as an investor, as an example. Thank you to everybody though, appreciate it.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Mason.
Yep, Mark, really congrats to PFAN and all of the proponents today that came forward with their pitches. I thought they were good. Dennis, particularly one of the last pitches, is one of the clearest that I've seen in a long time in terms of covering it off, among others. So I think that the delivery was excellent. I think that there's been a lot of work that's been done on entry-exit returns. And that's really nice to see as an investor that you're thinking about what you're offering to the incoming investor and pushing that ahead. But one of the areas that I think could be useful and helpful, and that came up on one of the last ones, is the overall capital raising picture, whether there's grants or other forms of capital that's going to be coming in for clear markets. And I think that that's really important to continue to highlight. I'm not going to reiterate the big points that Jim has raised in terms of the distribution channels, but I think it's really, really well done. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mason, and really valuable feedback for people on the line who are thinking about how to structure an investment ask. Super instructive and really helpful. Thanks a lot. Dennis, a few words.
Thanks, Mark. And yeah, I'll echo both Jim and Mason. This has been truly a remarkable forum to attend. I think I've felt like a front row student. I came to this particular forum with limited knowledge around off-grid cooling value chain or supply chain. But I go back heartened that the technology aspect of off-grid cooling seems to be something that has garnered traction in the last couple of years. And so probably the biggest question is around the business model and ultimately the financial model that will not only scale, but in my view, since I represent an impact investor, truly make a transformational impact for low-income households that are off-grid based. As I think off the bat, I think my overall overarching observation is for those very early stage ventures, it will be great to hear what your need will be beyond capital. I think we've heard about your capital needs, but knowing very well that it takes a lot to execute, it will be great. It will have been great to hear what your beyond capital needs are. Probably as a conclusion, I think we are keen on engaging Dennis here in East Africa and see whether there is a potential for a partnership between Acumen and Sokofresh. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that sounds like there's a further conversation between the Dennises that could be productive here. And thanks again, Dennis, for all of your efforts and your contributions to make this event into a success. It's hard to follow these guys, but I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely it's hard. And what I would like to maybe sound different and give my kudos to the coaches. I think they've done a wonderful job in preparing the entrepreneurs and their teams for the presentation, which were all clear. I need to say something different. Yeah, I'm taking away the fact that I have some interesting proposal to share with my colleagues in India, in Kenya. So yeah, I'm quite excited by some of the projects that I've seen today. We at Oikocredit, as an impact investor, like Dennis was saying, we are interested in renewable energy from an access perspective. So the fact that we are able to provide value-added services to off-grid communities, and because it gives an answer to the question, what next after solar home systems? So we have great perspective, and you can see the scale of opportunities and potential return also for investors. So it is a market that looks viable, therefore attractive to commercial level investors, and not just I would say venture capitalists or donors, philanthropists. And last point is on the proposals. I think for an investor, it's also good to set the expectations, return expectations, multiples, as well as to know who else is around the table when I will join. So that's my my last word on it. Thank you. Back to you, Mark.
Eve, yeah, thank you very much, Eve. And yeah, again, really congratulations to all of you. I think you've created a really excellent, instructive learning resource in this this presentation that I think we will obviously make available to people, but to actually hear your perspectives and your insights is very, very valuable for people, both learning about cooling and learning about how to attract investment interest for their projects. So it's time for me to sign off. I want to thank all of you as well participating in this, for your active contributions, for your questions and your engagement. Thanks to all of the advisors and supporters within PFAN who've helped to bring these projects to the table, and thanks to our investors, obviously. I'm going to give the final word for the session to the Grand Master of PFAN, who's highly appropriate to tell us about what comes next from these sessions and how do we take the discussion forward. So I'm really pleased to introduce Peter Story, the Global Coordinator of PFAN, to finish it off and wrap up, I think, what we've heard today and sign off on behalf of the event. So Peter, it's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everybody. Indeed, I've been following this session and indeed the first session. Really interesting, really enthusing. I often say to everybody that is sort of prepared to listen to me that I have one of the greatest jobs in the world, seeing these sort of projects come to us in a relatively early stage, working with them, working with the promoters, the developers and the entrepreneurs, to polish them, and then putting them on a stage like this, seeing their potential for development and for impact, and at the end of the day for raising money, and for the feedback that we've just heard from our four panelists. I mean, what could we ask for better? Fantastic. And Mason, Eve, Dennis, and Jim, really thanks so much for your time. And I suppose we've already achieved one of our goals in with Dennis's clear indication that he would like to continue discussions with Sokofresh, and this is what this exercise and what PFAN is all about. We are about developing pipeline to such an extent that we can then put them in front of investors, as we've done today, and that opens the door to a conversation which will hopefully, no pressure guys, which will hopefully lead to an investment, and to Sokofresh and indeed any of the other companies that we've worked with and seen over the past hour or so, raising the money that they need to go on and have the impact that we've all heard about. So this is a fantastic process. It's this is what PFAN is all about. I think what I would like to stress is the critical nature of this project development, the pipeline development process. We all are aware that there's a tremendous amount of funding, be it private sector or public sector, out there at the moment for clean energy. We're seeing now a new vertical being created in the cooling sector. That's a new vertical for PFAN, which I think is a good thing. It's a new vertical for us in terms of origination, and it's a new vertical for us in terms of an investment offtake.
and we are going to be working very hard over the next months to make sure that that is amplified and that work is taken forward. I want to stress that although this seems the end of a process, it's actually the beginning of a process. We've been working with these projects and indeed with many others now for over a year, 18 months or so in our cooling pipeline, and we will continue that process. And the feedback that we've got from our investor panel will help us further refine the projects. And what we really want to do now is work with investors, the ones that we had in our panel, of course, but any other investors that are out there that have an interest in any of the projects that we've shown today or in any of our other pipeline projects in the cooling pipeline, or indeed our broader pipeline in clean energy and climate. We have over 250 projects, if I remember correctly, sort of in that pipeline at the moment. And as Nagaraja mentioned earlier, we've managed to raise about 2 billion of investment for 120 odd projects in the past. So there's a lot of work to do. I think, one of the things that I would really like to emphasize is the fact that this work with KSEP has really opened to us a new vertical, a new area of activity, and we will be continuing that as we go further forward. Just to, if you would like to get in touch with us, I hope you're now seeing my screen, and follow up in any ways, please contact either Nagaraja Rao, the head of investment facilitation, or Mark Lister, who's had a prominent role in pulling this event together, who's leading our cooling efforts. And they will be in perfect position to either talk about any of the projects that you've heard and seen today, any of the discussions that we've had over the last couple of days. And if you've got any other questions about anything else in our cooling pipeline. And that pipeline, just to give you an idea, is currently about 31 projects across South Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Eastern Europe. I think we've got a total ask for those projects of around 150, 160 million US dollars. So they're substantial. And we are working with those projects to bring them forward to meet those criteria that Eve, Mason, and Jim and Dennis mentioned in their closing remarks. We're striving constantly to be able to put projects in a position and entrepreneurs in a position that they can meet the requirements of the investor in terms of asking those questions about the distribution, the scale, and valuations and competition and so on. We look forward to working with you more. We look forward to working with these projects more. Please contact us. More importantly, we look forward to continuing the work with KSEP and with all other donors. And I'd like to really just end by a big thank you to our donors, to KSEP in particular for providing the funding for this particular initiative, but to all the PFAN donors. To our partners, to the coaches, Eve mentioned them, they always take a big center stage in these occasions. They are the ones that have done all of the hard work in preparing these projects and putting them in front of us. I'd like to thank, obviously, Mark, Peter Dupont, Albert, and the PFAN team in pulling this together. Fantastic event. Finally, I'd like to thank again the panelists. Thank you all. We really appreciate your time. Most of all, however, I'd really like to thank the projects. Without you, PFAN is nothing. Projects is what PFAN is all about and will continue to be all about. And to our audience for staying with us for what I think has been a fantastic event and a real foundation for further work in developing investment into the cooling sector. Thank you very much all. And I wish you a good rest of day and a good weekend. Bye-bye.